Removing predatory losers from Congress is a nonpartisan issue for Mallory and me. Today, we are speaking with Mrs. Frazzled, an online educator and an unlikely catalyst of the resignation of former Congressman Eric Swalwell, and what this means for the future of journalism, content creators, and ethics in our government. I'm Maggie Gelson Burnett.
And I'm Mallory Hagan. This is Pretty Furious.
We should probably inform our listeners that Mallory and I met in person for the first time last week.
Yes, I was sitting in that very chair that your hiney's in right now.
Yes. Mallory and I are business partners and have been doing this podcast for over a calendar year and had never met in person. So
yeah,
we have
a full business and money attached to our names, and we've never met.
We had never met in person. So I'm not sure that I recommend that for like everybody, but
I'm not sure what that says about us. Does that mean that we're just like really good at gut checking vibes, or are we stupid? Unclear.
I think maybe it's both. It could be both. But yes, it was so much fun. We had a great time last weekend. It was my baby shower.
It was really fun
and rolling.
It was very fun to be in Peoria and see your friends and your world and just be in it, and also to not feel like I'd never met you, like we're just old friends. And I was just there like kicking it on the couch.
100%.
Yeah, it was good. But also you had something else that you did this week, and that's what I was referencing, because your baby shower feels like a year ago.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, we had the baby shower, but then I went and saw Bruce Springsteen on Wednesday for my second time. Mallory witnessed the journey of me purchasing these tickets, which was a dogfight. And for reference, like, I am no stranger to tough ticket sales, like tough ticket purchasing. I purchased the tickets for Taylor Swift. I was in the queue for 7 hours for that show. It was insane. And this, I think, was more intense than Taylor Swift. Worth every penny.
I recorded you. We were sitting here getting ready to record an episode, and you were having a come apart, and I just like hit record.
And I got into the queue and I was like, I need you to hold on.
You were like, I'm sweating.
Like,
I'm sweating
to buy these tickets. So yeah, I was tasked with buying them for myself, my sister, and my brother-in-law. And so I was really feeling the pressure. But yeah,
was it everything that you thought it was going to be?
It was incredible. You know, it was different from, I think, Bruce's typical shows. Like, this show very much so had an agenda, had a sort of like set list that has been the same since the start of the tour, which is not common for Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. They usually build their set lists like backstage on a piece of paper.
They might be just getting too old for that.
Well, yeah, also that. But like, it was very, very like curated in terms of like every song had a message behind it. Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine was on tour with them. He was phenomenal. I'm just like constantly floored by these musicians, and like Bruce Springsteen is 76 years old, and motherfucker just gets up there and plays a 3-hour set list and like walks off stage like it's nothing. And I'm like, okay.
It is interesting to think about when you think about the people like in your own family who are that same age range, and I have family members who are in their late 70s and 80s, and the ability to move around freely is limited, much less a 3-hour show on
100%
traveling the country.
Is 2 years older than my parents, so like,
no way.
Yeah, so like literally I'm like, okay. I think it was like 10 years ago or so, some publication, my sister was telling me this, I think it might have been like Rolling Stone, did a count of how many joint replacements had happened within the E Street Band. And at that time, this was like when Bruce was like 65, there had been like over 30. And so I would be curious to know what that is now. Yeah. But they all just like, they all play amazingly and they sound so good. And it's, I think if you have a chance to go while he's on this specific tour and you are, politically inclined, politically engaged, you should it's worth every penny to go and see him.
I was
So
going to ask if it was worth it because I know the pennies that you paid. So,
yes,
you
lots
know,
of pretty pennies. Yeah.
you know what I think will be interesting? My in utero concert was Beyonce. Kevin and I went to Beyonce. If anyone who's been listening that long remembers, and yours was Bruce Springsteen, and we'll be interested to see how that impacts the children who we raised.
Mallory's
Like,
for a
is
gay
Part
son.
gonna be into Beyonce?
I'm crying.
Let's hope.
Let's get into things. Be sure that you're following us everywhere. First of all, let's start
At
there.
Pretty Furious Pod.
Literally everywhere. YouTube, Twitter. Are we on Twitter? What the
No,
fuck?
we're not.
Never mind. Just fucking kidding.
Don't do that. No, but
YouTube,
we have
Facebook.
our yeah, there we go. We got YouTube,
Substack.
Facebook, Instagram, Substack. Basically just
blind
Google
leading the
us,
blind.
okay?
Literally. Just
No, but-
fucking Google the show.
But we
God
really
damn
would
it.
appreciate your follows and your shares of our content as it comes.
Yes.
We have not been as consistent as we would like to be here recently, but all of you, when you are there and you comment, it really helps. Maggie, what headline has made you pretty furious this week?
Yes, girl, I've got one. This is from CNN from yesterday morning. The White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting yields debate over security and new ballroom, but not guns. This
God.
article basically goes on to discuss how a lot of people on the right, conservatives, are talking about how the need for this ballroom now is dire. I mean, it's crucial. Based off of what happened last weekend at the dinner. I just find it fascinating that like this is the direction we've decided to take now when like so are we going to provide ballrooms for all of the children across America who have to do active shooter
also,
drills?
can we just talk about like the ballroom wouldn't have been big enough for the White House Correspondents' Dinner anyway.
fully?
So
and
it's a totally null argument or thing to advocate for in this instance. Even I mean,
exactly.
as ridiculous as it is at its baseline, just the actual logistics of all of it, the ability to host
100%.
an event of that size wouldn't exist. So
Yeah.
next,
Yeah.
like,
Right. And and a lot of the arguments too are Republicans going back and saying that, in 2022, there were a couple of different gun laws that were introduced that they discuss further in depth in this article. Like the boyfriend clause or the boyfriend law that was put into place where if you have previously, had a domestic abuse charge on your record that you can no longer purchase a firearm. Another argument on the right is that the shooter came from California, took a train from California to Washington, so is in a state where ostensibly, the gun laws there are stricter than they would be in a red state. So yeah, that's kind of like the general thesis from people on the right is that like this, this is not a gun issue. This is an issue of where where people are located at the time of a shooting. And another kind of argument is like, well, law enforcement did their job. They were able to get him, so therefore
why was he
it's
there in the
okay.
first place then?
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, okay.
So
hang on.
the biggest piece of this puzzle to me is and not about the guns. The people are going to find a way to negate anything that you say about a gun because they're
Right.
stupid.
Yeah.
And they care more about guns than human life, and that's just a reality that we live with here in this country. But the thing about this experience over the White House Correspondents' Dinner will always be to me that if there was a credible threat, why were all of the people in the line of succession in the same space?
Right.
If there was
Yeah.
a credible threat, then Donald Trump and JD Vance should have been taken to separate spaces, along with Hegseth, Kash Patel, all of them. But instead, they were all taken to the same room, and then they did a press conference all together again in the same space. So, like, either we are just throwing out all security protocol for the people who run our country and we just don't care anymore, or there was never a credible threat in the first place, and it was all exactly what everyone thinks it was.
I think it was Tell Williams who made a video where right after where it just shows him taking aluminum foil and like making a a tinfoil hat out of it. And I was like, listen, I am also not a conspiracy
Listen,
theorist.
honestly though, at this point, I think I might be, because
Fully,
my headline is
what's
taking
yours?
things to the next space, right? But like at this point, it's not even like conspiracy theory. It's that when everything that this administration has done and everything Donald Trump has done for an entire decade has been meant to erode trust in public media, in
Right.
journalism, in the truth in general. I mean, they're putting out AI photos, like AI videos. How can you not question everything around you when everything has been meant to reduce trust in all of our systems and the journalism and all of that?
Right.
So anyway, my headline is also from CNN, and it also involves a Reddit rabbit hole. But the headline is how a speculative story about dead and missing scientists went from the fringe to the White House. Have you heard of this?
Wait, I think I saw a TikTok about this.
Yes.
And she was like, all of these scientists like have mysteriously turned up dead in the last like 5 years or something. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Keep going.
So it has been a little bit fringe, and shout out to my mom for being like, hey, you guys should really talk about this. So I'm going to
Maybe we could do a deep dive.
I was going to say we should do a deep dive.
Yeah.
So I've started seeing a little bit about this online too, chatter as well. And then my mom brought it up and I was like, you know what? I need to, like, it's one of those things. There's so much information coming at us that you see something like that come across your feed and you're like, wow, that's interesting. Scroll. Anyway.
Right.
But then I started looking into it. It is really fascinating. And come to find out, 2 of the scientists of the 11 that have gone missing or mysteriously died are from right here in Huntsville.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So there's like contractors, people who work in top security, people who are in, like nuclear materials, people who work for NASA. There's like all of these people who are involved. And Reddit, thank you to Reddit for your incredible journalism. Reddit has like listed everyone and the programs that they were working on and their security clearance and all this kind of stuff. So I do think we need to do a deep dive, but I just wanted to put it out there. Like, of all the things we're talking about, hello, people who have security clearances and top secret information and are working scientists across a myriad of, I guess, like industries are just being offed, and people are starting to connect the dots. Wild, wild stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that TikTok and being like, what the fuck? So we should do a deep dive.
Yeah,
I like
we definitely should. Speaking of people who are connecting the dots.
Great segue. Wow. Just
welcome.
10 out of 10 on that one.
Yeah, well,
really
I mean,
good.
she did. She connected the dots. She put some things
Yes.
together, and I think it's really important. We have someone who I've been following. Have you been following her for a long time? I think I've been following her since COVID.
Literally years. Yeah.
Yeah. Ariel Felder is here today. She is a former kindergarten teacher turned education advocate who breaks down complex education policy and political issues with humor and clarity and honesty. Her work explores the intersection of public education and politics, and it highlights the real-world impact that those things have on families and educators and communities. She is the host of Teacher Quit Talk, a comedic commentary podcast spotlighting the nationwide teacher exodus and what it will take to bring educators back to the classroom. But also, as we mentioned, she is an unlikely catalyst of the resignation of former Congressman Eric Swalwell. Let's welcome Mrs. Frazzled. Hi, Ariel. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much
here.
for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're really thrilled to have you. And first, we just want to say, because we teased this a little bit when we opened up this episode, we want to say thank you for the work that you did to bring the allegations against Eric Swalwell to light. We know we're going to talk with you a little bit more in depth about it if you don't mind, but we just want to let our audience know that, that's coming, but we want to get into your world a little bit before we dive into the tea. So first and foremost, what headline has made you pretty furious this week?
I am particularly pretty furious about the Texas 10 Commandments headline. I don't know if you guys had seen that, but it's been back and forth, multi-states just like allowing the 10 Commandments to be posted on the walls. And they've gotten very sneaky about it too. They're like, it's got to be such and such a size, and it's got to be, you know, nothing else can be next to. It's just like they're so annoying about it. And they're doing it as a ploy to get all the way to the Supreme Court. They know they're going to get blocked. But so it makes me so mad because it's such a like sneaky thing that the average person doesn't even know about. It's crazy pants.
Yeah. I live in Alabama, so we're also...
You have one as well.
We do. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is outside of the fact that, you know, separation of church and state, you know, just the casual things that this country is supposed to be founded on. Outside of that, it's just a colossal waste of taxpayer dollars. Colossal waste of our money to be paying legislators to debate this on our legislative floors, and then also to be paying for everything that comes after that, getting it to the Supreme Court. It's just a huge waste of time and energy and money, and that's infuriating.
Also, not for nothing, I went to a Catholic school, K through 8, when I was growing up in Iowa. And I distinctly remember, like, there were absolutely classrooms that we did not have the 10 Commandments hung up on the wall. Like, I don't think that was a thing until I was in, like, 6th grade, maybe. And they were, like, prepping us for, like, confirmation and stuff like that. Like, so I just find that hilarious, first of all, that, like, you know,
they're like, the Catholic school doesn't even have the 10 Commandments
literally
in the classroom. Oh, well, you know,
when you're going farther than the Catholic Church, you know, you're doing too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Maggie and I were saying the other day, we were like, God, the Catholics are borderline the liberal folks.
They're being woke now, yeah.
Like, who are we? Well, speaking of classrooms, you spent the first part of your career in one.
Yes,
I would love to know just like what drew you to teaching in the first place?
That is a fabulous question. I don't know. When I was in preschool, I was like, I want to teach the big kids. And at the time, that was kindergartners. And it just was like, I had always wanted to do it. I think, I don't know. It's something I've tried to unpack over and over again, but it's also something that when I had a podcast with my co-host, we tried to get into it, and we were like, I guess, unfortunately, it's just the only thing we feel like, unfortunately, it's our dream job. You know, just can't shake it. We got the bug.
I think, you know what, I when I was little, I constantly, you know, I always played teacher. I wanted to be the teacher. I wanted to. So maybe it has something to do with like our personality types, you know, as I'm sure we would have been labeled when we were little, ballsy, but I don't think that that's it. I think just, you know, commanding.
I can't say the same for me. I just liked the markers.
Oh, I love it.
You wanted to write on the dry erase board.
Yeah, I just wanted the markers.
Well, you talk a lot about the teacher exodus, and I got lost in a comment section the other day, a post about what it's like to teach post-COVID. And the comments were from teachers and administrators who are all just like, you will never believe how different it is in the last 6 years from the first part of my career, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you think this like massive shift comes from?
I think it comes from so many places. I mean, we could probably talk about this for hours because there's the one element of like, yes, when we went through the collective trauma that was lockdown, whatever happens to adults happens to kids. So like, of course, we are kind of messed up after COVID started, and then the kids same exact way. And then also there was like a very heavy reliance on technology in a way that was like kind of a replacement versus an enhancement or a tool. Like it was how we were socializing for a year. It was how we were at school for a year or more than a year for some of us. Like I'm in California, and we did like a year and a half online, and it was just really tough. And I think, you know, we already had a literacy crisis. We already had a funding crisis. We had all these issues, and, you know, it just is a mountain of reasons why we're having all of these issues. And of course, teacher working conditions are student learning conditions. So if teachers are like out to dry, which in a lot of ways they are, because there was also a lot of like, how do we do like behavior management? And how do we do this curriculum? And the thing that happens when schools are shortchanged is they can't really do anything all the way. Like if you aren't fully funded and you're not fully staffed, you'll get something like a behavior system or you'll get something like a curriculum. And it's like, how do you actually implement that fully with one teacher? And in fourth grade sometimes there's like 35 kids in the room. It's like, I had every year I taught kindergarten and TK combo, I had 27 students every single year.
Wow.
And it's like
in a kindergarten classroom.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's just 1,000 things, and it just was kind of exacerbated and spotlighted by COVID, and we're dealing with it.
I just to pull on that thread a little bit, part of me, as you were sitting here talking, is wondering, like, at what is it us? Like, is it our generation? Is it the pendulum swing to, I'm going to use gentle parenting loosely, but I don't necessarily mean permissive parenting. I know that there is a difference. But this swing away from like authoritative parenting that has made the school experience different, or I don't know. I'm just sitting here thinking about, like, is it because we collectively decided we're not going to parent like our parents' generation? Is that
I wondered that too.
potentially the problem?
I don't know. I mean, I think when I've seen a lot of kids parented in a lot of different ways, and my favorite way is gentle parented kids, because kids are mirrors. They'll copy what is done to them and said to them. So I have had lovely students like that, and it's, to me, I think that there is a certain reliance in our culture in general on like immediate gratification in a way that's like seeking dopamine hits, whatever that looks like. So it's like, yes, there's the iPad kid of it all, but it's like, why are they being handed an iPad and what are they doing with it? And if they're on YouTube, is it a controlled setting, or is it like, yeah, baby, go ahead and search with your voice whatever you want? And it's this constant like instant gratification. Kids aren't able to be bored. Kids aren't able to interface with one another in the way that we were growing up necessarily, because there are these screens a lot of the times, and there's social media for the older kids, so they're able to get behind the screen and enjoy that kind of anonymity that can kind of make adults mean. And then you give it to a middle schooler or even an elementary schooler sometimes. And it's like, it's, in my opinion, that is the actual crux of it, not like it's not like one thing. And it's not even technology.
The inability to be bored is a real problem. In our house, if you're bored, you can scrub a toilet.
Hey,
or you can figure it out. Like, I'm always like, you can't be that bored. If you're bored, here you go, scrub a toilet. I don't want to do that. Well, then you're not that bored.
I should implement that for me.
My kids would love to scrub a toilet. The baby had his hand in a toilet this morning, and the girls would be like, yeah, let's rock and roll. Get me in that toilet. As I'm like, I've lost sight of them. Oh, there's
one thing that you had mentioned briefly was the literacy crisis.
Yes.
And I'm having this like flash to the meme of like Charlie from It's Always Sunny, where he's pointing at the whiteboard, like connecting all of like the dots behind him.
I literally have one of those because that's how I feel every day.
100%. So I'm curious to know, from an educator standpoint, if like all of this in America, everything that's happening right now with like Trump and MAGA and people just like not having critical thinking skills and not being able to like, communicate with one another effectively. Was that something that as an educator you saw coming? Like, were you able to like look behind you at the whiteboard and be like, all of these things are now going to like 2016, this is going to happen. Like, I just find that fascinating that I'm sure educators were like, you fucking idiots, we saw this coming. Like, I have to imagine that's how you felt.
Kind of. And like, I actually didn't get into a traditional classroom setting until after Trump won the election, because that was what made me switch from theater teacher to classroom teacher, because I was like, I need to get up in here, because it's, I can't do enough as an after school teacher like I want to. And yes, I mean, you talk to any veteran teacher and they will tell you like, things did shift around the George Bush era, and yes, there was No Child Left Behind, and yes, that is gone and replaced with something else, but there's this like been this real disregard for teachers as a professional field that really was just hammered in that era of time. And we've seen kids coming through that, there was an experimentation of like not doing phonics for a second. There was like questionable, biased
Jesus.
curriculum.
Fuck?
I know.
Yeah.
There was like a whole thing where it's like they had kids like guessing based on the pictures, and I have taught it. I have been forced to teach it, and it is alongside phonics. It was like kind of fine because it's like, it was a little shortcut, but it is hard, and I cannot imagine not teaching phonics explicitly alongside things like look at the picture and guess what it is. So there was this like deprofessionalization of the field, which was highly insulting and ridiculous, where teachers were not invited to the table to make decisions. They were just given things down to them, and that is always going to be a mistake. And the culture of that, I think, really impacted how schools, which educate over 90% of students, were able to do so. And like now we're seeing the fruits of that, which is a disaster. We're having a literacy crisis. We're having a critical thinking crisis. And it's like, we got to get back to at least some type of a better baseline.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I read, was that I think I read, I'll just insert this quick. This is just like an anecdote, but like, I think I read that now it's like ninth graders on average all read at like a third or fourth grade level or something. Like I read that recently and was like, holy fuck. Like I think that when I was, and not to, I don't mean this in like a, I'm so smart type of way, like what I grew up in a town of 5,000 people in Eastern
You can
Iowa.
say you
like,
read on a higher grade level.
But like I was reading like, I remember them telling me when I was a kid, like in fourth grade in like the talented and gifted program, they were like, before they were like, you're on the spectrum. Like that, I was reading at like a higher level. And I like, that blows my mind that now we just have this crisis where like, that's the norm for kids now.
Well,
reading at such a lower level.
Working in the news, you're instructed to write at a fifth grade level, which is insane.
That's
like
crazy.
just baseline. So when I was a news anchor and writing like the digital stories that went along with what was happening in the news, you're supposed to write like a fifth grader. I mean, and that's crazy. That's crazy.
Because the average reading level is for adults is sixth grade and below, which means comprehension is an issue, which means that speeches like Donald Trump's, where he is repeating the same taglines over and over again, and he's speaking at a very basic level, is an attribute in a way.
Is effective.
Because what you said with news anchors having to speak and write at a fifth grade level, it's it's a thing.
One of the things that this made me think about was you said that they have deprofessionalized teaching, and when you combine that with the Trumpification of the education system and how they have demonized education, they have taken away access to education. But one of the things that I also find interesting is the way that they have turned the general population against teachers with rhetoric like they're indoctrinating your children, they're woke, they're, all for exposing children to multiple different, whether it's versions of a story or outcomes or whatever it might be, for being inclusive in their classroom, for welcoming students of all backgrounds. It's so crazy to me to think about how a profession that used to be so highly revered. I think about my grandmother, who was a teacher for 30 plus years. She was a kindergarten, first and second grade teacher. I mean, it was just something that everyone very much respected. And now that doesn't feel like the case. Like the general population is kind of looking down on teachers and questioning questioning their motives. Do you hear that a lot from people in their teacher exodus?
Oh, yes. I think it's the crux of everything. And it's also so intentional. This is literally part of the playbook. It's part of the plan to have people distrust education, particularly in the public education system. And it is just so impossible. When you have people like libs of TikTok getting on Twitter, which when people hear me say libs of TikTok, they think that I'm talking about liberals if they're not familiar with this. But there is an account on Twitter that really got her start through posting libs from TikTok who she deemed to be unsafe teachers, indoctrinators, groomers, pedophiles, all manner of horrible things. I mean, I think we've all been posted there if we were teaching in like the 2020, 2021 years. It was brutal. We got, like, people would call our school. My friends got fired. I mean, it was just, they will stop
Oh my
at nothing.
God.
Nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it has created this, you know, in part, she is a huge part of creating this culture war rhetoric that is just complete bullshit. Fox News has a hand in it. Trump has a hand in it. And it's,
Moms for Liberty.
Moms for Liberty who
Yeah.
are rearing their ugly little heads because we're in an election cycle again. So they're showing up and being annoying.
Banning books.
Oh,
or trying
gracious.
to.
We could go on for on and on and on because this culture war is part of the playbook for making parents feel uncomfortable with sending their children to school in general, especially public school. But it's because if you can convince people that their children are in danger, they will probably stop at nothing to help them. And if they are being lied to, perhaps they're in an information desert or they're in a news desert, and all they are getting is this bullshit from the far right, and they're so scared. If you can make people fear for their children's lives and futures and say these people are harming them, oh, you got them hook, line, and sinker. And that's what we're seeing. It's a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the whole, I find it hysterical that, like, well, not hysterical, but like, you know, funny in my own like fucked up sense of humor. That, like, you know, we have all of these people on the right who are trying to dismantle education. This was a huge part of Project 2025, Department of Education, Moms for Liberty, all of these groups that are actively trying to dismantle education through the lens of like, these teachers are groomers, these teachers are, you know, teaching your children like, you know, how to be trans, or like whatever the fuck their like,
Oh,
you know,
God,
rhetoric
yeah.
is. And it's like, we just I just don't understand like where this like rhetoric comes from of like making teachers the bad guy, when like the real bad people are often the ones who are in our government.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
you
gotta
know
think,
firsthand.
Yeah, you got to
So-
think though, if they demonize teachers and make public school a place that people don't want to go, then when they go to their state legislatures and they do things like the Choose Act in
Mhm.
Alabama, where they now have school vouchers and you can take your voucher to your
Yep.
private school,
Yep.
you know, it's like it's all that pipeline of Project 2025 of dismantling public education, privatizing everything, and making it such that only rich white kids get access to education and no one else does.
And
Yep.
it goes back
Yeah,
even to
exactly.
like every fascist regime ever has gone down this road. I mean, Hitler did it very classically. They went for the schools first, and they know these like administrations that are predatory, and some of us like myself believe that it's a rise of fascism, like textbook. And you can see the way that they go into schools, they're trying to control the rhetoric. We saw something similar, not that it was fascism, but with the Cold War. I mean, people are still regurgitating Cold War rhetoric because they were taught things about the space race in school, which was bullshit because it was like, it was purely like boosting themselves up. So much of our public education system has been influenced by people trying to get ahead in the space race and like bringing Nazi scientists over to work on it for Operation Paperclip and for, you know, getting science into schools, but at what cost? Like it's just absolutely bonkers the way that it's like, if you control education, you control the future, the way that the future populace thinks, the way that the future populace votes, and they will go on and on about parental rights, but it's not parental rights for you and I. It's not indoctrination when they're doing it. They say give
when it's the
education
Ten
back to the
Commandments.
states, but
Right.
it's like, what if we don't want it? What if we don't? And they don't give a shit. It's like, it's so transparent.
A lot of the folks
Yeah.
in Alabama have come forward and said, 10 Commandments, all right, let's also put up there's like a satanic prayer or something. They're like, let's start advocating for that. You get the 10 Commandments, we get the satanic prayer. I just find it so interesting because, yes, that's true. It's only okay if they do it. It's always, you know, not as I say.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Satan, Mallory, great segue, great lead in here. But I want to switch gears and I want to get to the Eric Swalwell of it all. And I think that, as Mallory and I are both political content creators ourselves, watching your work, and both Mallory and I are both survivors of sexual abuse on various instances. And so watching your work, I think, was particularly profound because not only do we feel that as survivors, but also as creators, as kind of seeing like where we fit into this ecosystem that has for a very long time, since kind of the inception of like content creators has sort of minimized the job and minimized the role. So how did you, I'm curious, like for context for our listeners, obviously Mallory and I kind of know all of this information, but like how did you find yourself in this position in the first place to sort of bring all of this to light?
Yeah, so I had like Eric Swalwell launched his campaign with a group of content creators on Zoom, and I was invited, and he the next day had posted it to his story saying that he had met with us, and I reposted it, and I was like, yeah, this guy was really cool, and I can't wait to do my interview with him in a couple days. And everybody got in my DMs and was like, no, like, he don't give him your phone number, he will sext you in the middle of the night, don't like talk to him, he sleeps with his interns and his staffers, like it's he's just dangerous. And it already, like, and ironically, that's pretty much what happened when interns and staff would show up to the Hill. They would be told almost instantly, stay away from that man, do not be alone with him. Congress people were told, like, don't let your little interns and staffers go hang out with him in his office, like it's an issue. So immediately I'm getting told all of this, and that's just like something so unacceptable and gross to me as also a survivor of sexual assault, particularly mine was in the workplace. So I'm like going crazy for months.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap, how is this normalized? How is this allowed? What are we doing? I mean, I was so enraged and disgusted by it, and that like was what fueled me to like just stop vague posting and start saying his name. And now we're here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the things that has come to light is that this was kind of well known, right? Like this was a well known issue, and he's not the only one. And we know that he's not the only one.
Yeah.
Never mind Gonzalez. We know that this problem is not just in Congress. This problem is everywhere. And we have that's a given. But we have a culture, I think, in this society where rather than really outing people in the workplace, we just kind of like, as women, we kind of just go, oop, stay away from that guy. Or, you might not want to hire that person because of X, Y, and Z, instead of it becoming more public knowledge like it is now.
And that's why we have people like predators able to do what they're doing, because we normalize that culture. And like, not every sex pest or sexual harasser is going to escalate to like full-blown assault, sure. But like, are you really willing to take that risk? Like, if people had...
But also, the three of us could probably raise our hand and go, yes, it is. Just because nobody said it out loud, of course it is. If they're willing to do that to somebody that they just met, a phone number they just got, a girl that they just interacted with, as a married man with children, odds are that the assault has happened already, or that it has come close on many occasions. There are people who have walked away from interactions with men like Eric Swalwell going, was that assault?
Absolutely.
Did that?
Yes.
Or like, was I just drunk? Like, did I want to have sex with him? I guarantee you, if there are 4 that came forward, there are 40 more that walked away going, oh, wow, was that me too?
We have hundreds of women that we believe this has happened to. And we have, I would say at this point, like 30, 40 women who have spoken to our lawyer and spoken to the press. The 4 that came forward were the ones that were willing to
come
put their
forward,
names to it and share it. But, not all of them did share their name ultimately. But there are still people that have called me and been like, hey, so this happened to me, but like, do you need me? Like, I'm scared to say something still. And I'm like, no, if you don't want to say anything, like, your journey is your own. Here are the resources we have for you. But like, I'm not going to be like, yeah, get in there, because it's traumatic. He has gaslit these women to hell and back.
Yeah. I think gaslit all of us, like who, the people watching all of this happen.
I just wanted to point that out, like the culture of it all, right? Like, this is one person who has been made public, and people did decide to come forward, and you gave them some strength to do that by listening and by carrying their story and being willing to say it out loud, because that comes with tremendous risk for yourself as well. And I think we all know that.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine the types of comments and messages and shit that you've gotten from men on the internet. I
Yeah.
can
Oh my
only imagine.
God.
But I just wanted to point out that it cannot be stated enough that when a certain number of women come forward, you should triple, if not quadruple that number, knowing
Yeah.
that that's probably the real amount of people who have
Correct.
been impacted by this
Yep.
person who's an assaulter or an abuser.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to know, like, I mean, we could hypothesize about this for hours, but I guess from a more like personal standpoint, like, aside from the fact that, like, I don't know, gestures broadly, this is like all related to patriarchal conditions that we live under. We don't believe women. We don't believe, people who say that these things have happened to them because we think that they're doing it for money or fame or whatever the fuck it is. And my rebuttal to that is always that no sane person comes forward and lies about any of this. There is nothing in it for the people who come forward. Why do you think that he was able to like get away with something like this for so long? Like, aside from, like, especially on the Hill, like, when we have women, congresswomen who are there with him.
I mean, it's exactly what you said. I mean, it's this normalization of the sex pest culture, normalization of sexual harassment and abuses of power. People that brushed him off for years. Back when he was in Dublin, California, he was taking meetings at Hooters, business meetings. And this is like,
Oh
this
my
is
God.
this is something that people have addressed repeatedly. People have reported it, and it's, that's just Eric. He's just a cheeseball. He's a weirdo. Like, just tell people to stay away from him. Like, we'll move your office. We'll do this. We'll do that. It has been so brushed off because it is so normalized. And like we said, when you normalize that culture, a predator is going to predator because you have not nipped it in the bud or made him any sense of uncomfortable to keep doing the shit that he's doing. And that's why we have such a volume of people who have experienced abuses at his hand. He's just a product of, again, the patriarchy and these mediocre ass white men who think that they're God. Sorry, dude, you're just a man to me. Like, people are like, oh, weren't you scared? He's so powerful. I'm like, I live in Los Angeles, California.
Powerful
I
of
do not
what?
need him. Well, and
Yeah.
he was dangling these women's careers over their head like a carrot. But the thing about me is I don't need access to DC to do my job. I don't need it for my social circles. I have the opportunity and the privilege to speak for these women who can't, because he's still trying to ruin their lives. He's still trying to intimidate them. It's disgusting. So I think for me, it's like, it's the culture that allowed him to get away with it, but it's going to be people like us who are like, no, I'm not going to just like sit on this information because I'm not going to be harmed.
Yeah.
This is probably a bit of an unfair question, but it's something I think about a lot because I read an article about it in Time magazine like over 10 years ago, and it still just kind of like lives rent free in my brain. Do you think that people like him are capable of change?
No, I think he should be put in a cage on an island by himself.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I don't. I think there's something
the
wrong with
same.
his brain.
Fully.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with sex pests, like sex assaults, all of these like people that have that part of their brain busted to be able to like rape people and drug people.
Yeah,
I'm like,
100%.
you have something so deeply inherently wrong with you. I think when we colonize Mars, you should be the first ones shipped off.
100%.
You can just hang out.
So I think that this entire situation says a lot about kind of the like future of content creators, what their space is or their places in this like media ecosystem that we live in, especially with like attacks on the press and, kind of this constant battle of misinformation and all of that. So you were a part of Chorus, which is a content creator kind of incubator program started by Brian Tyler Cohen, or co-founded by him. And you were in the first cohort. I'm in the second cohort. This is a plug for Mallory to apply for the third cohort eventually. But
Yes.
I will.
Yes. Do you think that like, what are your thoughts on like the criticisms of like programs like this that are designed to allow for like pro-democracy content creators to thrive in the media ecosystem that we live in?
I think it's hard because it's such a natural place for like conspiratorial thinking to come into play because it is like an unknown world. I mean, God knows that when I started content creation as a teacher creator, I had no clue anything about literally anything, including that space, which is more clearly defined. But now, like after the 2024 election, the Democrats have started to invest in content creators, and that looks like 1,000 different things. So it's like, I get it. Because I also think, and like this may be controversial, but I do think that the way that Chorus started out by being like, we're doing this thing, and all it is like a training thing. If you guys don't know, like literally we get on Zooms and like they just like tell us the news for the day, tell us, they have this whole tracker system that you can see online. There's a version of it for what's trending on Substack, amazing resource for content creators, but they do a more in-depth version of it of like what's breaking through across the aisle, what's the right talking about, what's the left talking about, and that allows you to enhance your content. It's basically a real life version if you would do something like a Claude workspace to aggregate the news for the day, and we're able to like chat during it and have community, because this is a lonely ass space. Okay, we don't have coworkers, but now we do. We did DIY coworkers, so there's that, and then it's like training for like how to monetize your YouTube, which means like you have to get a certain amount of views, and it's like a whole thing with every platform is different. So all that to say, it's like kind of like a grad school program for content creators, which are popping up actually. There's more and more of these every day, but because Chorus was the first and they didn't really know what it was going to be, they kind of were like very open with the first cohort, similar to how like I'm technically an alumnus now, and they're trying to figure out like what that means. Like,
what do you do with all these people who have...
we're building the plane as we fly it. So I understand, but I do think that like we should have maybe not built the plane while we flew it. Like we should have maybe put some horses before the cart, because that left it open for people to be like...
I mean, the right has been paying people to spout off insane nonsense for a long time, and I'm not saying two wrongs make a right, but I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong.
No, I don't
utilize your resources, build coalitions, operate under the same messaging roof. But I do think they should have gotten a
comms person. Because it's like not, they should have, like, my kingdom for Chorus to have budgeted for a comms person. Because it's like, we were not doing coordinated messaging. We are not doing campaigns. We're not doing whatever. It's literally like, we would have a one-on-one where it's like, what do you want to do with your platform? And can we support you? So I wanted to start hiring an editor, but I didn't know how the F to do that. And I was like, how do you do that? What do you look for? What do you ask? Like all of these things. And it was so helpful to me. But like my neighbor asked, for totally different things. So it's, I just wish that it had been clearer about how exciting this is. And also that it's like a less illegal version. It's not an illegal version of what the right does. The right's doing messaging coordinating. Yeah. They're doing shit that's like actually wrong. And it's literally just like DIY coworkers in a grad program. And I'm like, this is wonderful for us because this is not a sustainable space. It's very lonely. While I understand where people are coming from with like they don't understand it, so it's hard to grasp it, I think as time goes on, people will understand that like there are good versions and bad versions, quote unquote, of everything. And I think that Chorus is kind of awesome. I've loved it. I don't know about how you felt about your time, but it was really like, night and day after having that support.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like a good place to build that community. Yeah. Especially when you work from home.
Yes,
to your point, it is support that the right has had for decades that, people are like, you want to criticize, the left doing this, but the right has been doing this in unethical ways, let's be clear, for decades and decades. So
with obscene amount of money, with an obscene
oh my god, the money on the right is actually insane.
It's crazy.
And I'm like, I would like a pet billionaire or two. Like I know that there are no
an emotional support billionaire, as Maggie says.
Yeah, like a Mark Cuban, even now a Tom
JB Pritzker.
Steyer. He could be funding, JB. They could be funding a program or two, but like the money. When we're talking about the money, you guys, it's like if you're Maria Comstock put out a LinkedIn post where I think it was $6,000 for a deal on the left, and the identical same thing on the right was $36,000. Like that's what we mean when we're saying the money is so
It's just not
different.
the same. Yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah, I just love chorus, and I think the right is always doing illegal things, and we can't unilaterally disarm and be like, no, we're never going to have coworkers, and you're never going to be supported. Go on an island and be by yourself. Like, that's just not
exactly.
real.
But also, you
Exactly,
can't you cannot bring a pencil to a gunfight.
Exactly.
We keep saying this about so many different pieces of the right versus left conversation. It's like, if they're going to play dirty, if they're going to do things that are illegal and they're going to keep getting away with it, then we have got to figure out how to play in that same arena. Like, the politics of yesteryear are gone, and that includes journalism of yesteryear, the media landscape of yesteryear. And kudos to you and all content creators who are bringing situations to light like Swalwell, because without that pressure, then maybe this would have never been covered to the extent that it should have been, because God knows everybody clearly knew about it and they just didn't investigate.
I was losing my mind, Mallory.
I'm
losing
sure you were.
it. I was like, why aren't you doing anything?
Yeah. And that's the problem. Like, sometimes it takes the court of public opinion or public pressure in order to force change. So my last question for you is, you've built this enormous platform, and it's really exciting, the advocacy work that you've done, the way that you've, shaped your online presence and grown since we were talking about the fact that we've been following you since I think COVID. Like, didn't you start making content in like 2020? I was like, I've been following her for forever.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like forever. So I just want to know, as we close out, knowing what you know now, what would you go back and tell yourself on the first day that you decided to open your phone and make content?
The first thing I thought of is make a slime account, girl. Make a slime account. That's not accurate. Because if I could be making any type of other content, I would. I've tried everything, and I always end up back here because I will never keep my mouth shut. I'm just incapable of it. So I think, golly gee willikers, start YouTube faster. Start YouTube.
Yep. Fully.
YouTube is like the land
That's
of the
real.
unknown.
That's so real.
Get on YouTube right now. That, or like,
Maybe what about your mental health? Like, the mental space of it all.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Quit your job. I mean, it was, I'm telling you, my mental health is like in flux. I think like the most important thing that I've ever done is get off my damn phone and talk in my real life to people, and that was absolutely impossible when I started COVID. If you can't tell, I'm neurodivergent, so I'm taking this question very seriously. Let me think. But I did start with making content literally in the corner of my room behind a plant because I did not want to be perceived. And I think, it was good for what it was, but I think if I would have just allowed myself to take up space and, been loud and proud about what I was doing, I think that would have been cool. I think that would have been cool to have more confidence around it in the beginning. But, I always say, like, everything I've ever done has gone on to serve the work that I do. Like, I never feel like any job I've ever had is wasted. I've never felt like any time I've ever taken is wasted. And I don't know that I would change the journey that I went on, because it was so, like, exactly what I wanted it to be, because I was always able to be authentic to myself. And I think that's the best thing I've ever done. And I wish I had done that sooner, of just be you, because it's a lot more exhausting to put on a farce and to shut your mouth when it's not true to you and all of this stuff. I mean, authenticity is energizing and real. But also, I would tell myself, just because you want to be authentic doesn't mean you have to be telling your entire life story to the internet all the time. You can keep things to yourself.
That's so real.
That is real good advice for past me. As somebody who hid 2 pregnancies after telling the internet about my first one, I was like, don't do that, girl. Go run. Go back behind the plant.
Keep some things for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. As they say,
Great
be
advice.
yourself. Everybody else is already taken.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's real.
Well, thank you so much for joining us
being
today.
Here.
Yeah.
Thank you for
For-
having me.
Well, thank you for doing it in the midst of childcare crisis. We totally understand, and we really enjoyed getting to hear and see a little bit behind the scenes.